What was Muhammad's understanding of the concept of a day of rest, the Sabbath?
We have repeatedly and unerringly shown and proven that Muhammad's understanding of biblical concepts and precepts was extremely superficial and beyond his limited intellect, since he was unlearned of previous revelations, although literate. Genesis 2.1. Thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the host of them. And on the seventh day God ended his work which he had made, and he rested on the seventh day from all his work which he had made. And God blessed the seventh day and sanctified it, because that in it he had rested from all his work which God created and made. In Hebrew, Sabbath means cessation from work or cessation of creation. It is the seventh day of creation and the last day of the Hebrew week. Al-Qaf 50.38. We created the heavens and the earth and all between them in 6 days, nor did any sense of weariness touch us. The term weariness above means to be tired, which is not what the biblical narrative mentions. Both the Quran and its interpreters presume that the Sabbath, the day of rest, was meant to be resting from weariness. That the Bible verse indicates that the Almighty rested because he got tired. Muhammad, with his usual but understandable incomprehension, completely misunderstood the concept of the Sabbath as is shown in his Quran. God ceased the process of creating on the seventh day because he had already accomplished all his purposes by the sixth day, and not because he was tired, as the Quran and its interpreters stupidly and ignorantly presume its meaning to be. The Hebrew mind, the same that conceived of the unity of God, could not have attributed to God the human characteristic of getting tired, unlike the minds of Muhammad and his followers that can. Our conclusions are further confirmed by the following verse and the interpreter's comments. Al-Jum'ah 62.9. O ye who believe, when the call is proclaimed to prayer on Friday, the day of assembly, hasten earnestly to the remembrance of Allah and leave off business and traffic. That is best for you, if you but knew. The translator of this Quran, Abdullah Yusuf Ali, who is actually very well versed in both the Hebrew Bible and the New Testament, explains. The idea behind the Muslim weekly day of assembly is different from that of the Jewish Sabbath Saturday or the Christian Sunday. The Jewish Sabbath is primarily a commemoration of Allah's ending his work and resting on the seventh day. We are taught that Allah needs no rest, nor does he feel fatigue. The Jewish command forbids work on that day but says nothing about worship or prayer. Our ordinance lays chief stress on the remembrance of Allah. Jewish formalism went so far as to kill the spirit of the Sabbath and call forth the protest of Jesus. The Sabbath was made for man and not man for the Sabbath. But the Christian Church, although it has changed the day from Saturday to Sunday, has inherited the Jewish spirit. Our teachings say, when the time of Jum'ah prayer comes, close your business and answer the summons loyally and earnestly. Meet earnestly, pray, consult and learn by social contact. When the meeting is over, scatter and go about your business. I would like now to bring to the attention of our listeners the following facts that have been deliberately excluded from Abdullah Yusuf Ali's self-serving, one-sided and imbecile explanations. We have already explained that the Bible has no concept of the Almighty becoming tired. This is only Muhammad's misunderstanding in his own Quran. In spite of the fact that the Bible does not specifically mention the Sabbath as a day of prayer, in reality, and as Ali very well knows, all over the world of the Jews, they attend Sabbaths for congregational prayers. On the other hand, Muhammad and his followers needed to be commanded to do so on their Friday. While the followers of Muhammad attend their mosques once a week for congregational prayers in remembrance of Allah, as Ali so proudly indicates, all religious Jews attend their synagogues every single day in remembrance of God. The Jews, in fact, celebrate the arrival of the Sabbath in their homes, always on the evening of Friday, as if it were a bride in holy matrimony. In reality, the Jewish spirit that Ali so scorns is not dead in formalism, but on the contrary, is alive in celebrations, thanking the Almighty for His benevolence and mercy, as well as in gathering the whole family in happiness and joy at the end of a hard week. Yet again is Ali wrong when discussing the Christian Sunday, since in fact and in reality the Muhammadan Friday is its exact copy. Muhammadans congregate in prayer on Friday in the same manner that Christians do so on Sunday. Jesus protested not about the formalism of the Sabbath, but about its absurd and abused interpretation by the priests of the Jews. Again, and again, when the Muhammadan statements are properly scrutinized and put in the correct context, we are able to completely discredit them, as well as putting the facts in their proper perspective. Muhammad's Quran and its interpreters continue their malicious, false, and deliberate denigrations and attacks on the people of the book to make themselves look superior and better. Where and when in the Bible is it mentioned that the Jews transgressed the Sabbath? After all, the Jews and Judaized Arab tribes were the only ones on the face of the earth at the time of Muhammad who actually kept the Sabbath. Where did Muhammad get his information from? Why would the angel Gabriel falsify history and religion by giving totally untrue information to Muhammad? Which town were they commanded to enter with humility? Which Sabbath transgression is the Quran pointing to? If the Sabbath is so important to the Quran, why then was it not commanded to be a day of rest for the Muhammadans also? After all, they ended up with no day of rest. Where in the Bible does it mention that Allah raised the mountain above the Israelites? Al-A'raf 7.163. Ask them, O Muhammad, of the township that was by the sea, how did they break the Sabbath? How their big fish came unto them visibly upon their Sabbath day, and on a day when they did not keep the Sabbath came they not unto them. The same Quran of Muhammad that does not believe in the sanctity of the Sabbath as a day of rest for the Israelites has a totally fabricated and meaningless story allegedly describing what Allah did to those among them who had broken the Sabbath. We are very confused. Is or is not the Sabbath holy in the eyes of Muhammad's Quran? Al-Nahl 16.124. The Sabbath was only made strict to those who disagreed as to its observance. Muhammad reflects his total ignorance of the concept, purpose and spirit of the Hebrew day of rest in every single verse of his Quran. Muhammad could not comprehend the enormous and universal spiritual and physical significance of the Sabbath as a day of rest. A day during which all work activities similar to those of the previous 6 days are stopped, thus making it the unique and singular day of the week. Muhammad did not realize that the Sabbath is a day for the cessation of all work, related activities, not only for the whole people of Israel, but also including their guests, their servants, their slaves, their animals, and their land, so that can all enjoy God's bounty and His creation. It was, as was his wont, beyond Muhammad's intellectual and spiritual abilities to digest both the letter as well as the spirit of such a sublime and all-embracing, merciful concept.